Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Keeping notes. The Clays for Kids, which is a wonderful event, which is helping the Ronald McDonald House, 53 rooms across the street from St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. And they have two of the $3,000 four-man shooting teams available, men and women. I'm going to tell you again, my cousin Helen's daughter, cousin Lil, great shot. Caroline Baker, I'll put them up against anybody. But anyway, two of the four-man $3,000 teams are available, and one of the $1,500 four-man teams available. The Sporting Clays tournament at the Memphis Sports Shooting Association, Friday, September 22nd, will be held. It is an incredible event. There's so much to do out there. They have raffle prizes. But you need to call Chip Greer, 901-482-5680. It's 901-482-5680. And Chip will get you squared away, my friend, with Ronald McDonald House. Also, they have one team. They've created another team for the Archbishop J. Peter Sarton golf outing, October 2nd. That's a Monday. Chickasaw Country Club supports his scholarship fund. Call Michael Jordan, 901-647-3014. Let's get rolling, man. We're here 6 days a week. We do 25 shows a month, over 300 shows a year. Never feels like work, man. There are a few things in life that make you feel this good, and I think we know what the other ones are. Working hard, winning, making money, having babies. Nothing will get you out of bed in the morning more than having children. That's the greatest thing you can do to increase your income. But when you have a show, you got to get the ball in the hands of the guests. Let me introduce in the bottom corner a 5'11", 193-pound junior from Collierville, Tennessee, Mark Hamm, the cornerback, and at 6'4", 243 pounds with 6.2% body fat, the tight end, Ben Troupe from Swainsboro, Georgia, Gator All-American. And Mark, of course, has the biggest tailgate on Rocky Top. No, nothing to talk about here, just Tennessee and Florida, one of the greatest rivalries in college football. Damn, I'm fired up about this stuff. I've had 2 sips of coffee. And, Mark, I'm going to let you go ahead and throw out the first volley at Big Ben. Let's talk about Gators. Big Orange. Saturday.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot we can throw out because our record hasn't been that good against the Gators. So, last year wasn't bad. But I will say that I was a little shocked. I'm sure that it's all over the boards there for the Florida people that Joe Milton said he never loses in Florida. And I'm like, why would you say that before the game this week? But anyway, it'll be a good game. It'll be a good game.
Ben, nothing like a little pregame banter. I saw the Cal players were saying stuff about Auburn, and they talked to linebacker Eugene Asante, who was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. And Takeo Spikes asked him, he said, correct me if I'm wrong on Out of Pocket last night. You were on the scout team, or at least receiving scout team reps last year, and now you're SEC Defensive Player of the Week. You had 12 tackles, a sack, and 3 quarterback hurries. Holy cow. But they were fired up to play Cal, and you knew they'd be good. Your thoughts on Tennessee and Joe Milton, who's from the Muck, Pahokee, Florida?
I mean, obviously, when I heard Joe say what he said, I understood it. But like most, I mean, anything nowadays is going to be sensationalized. He could have said, "Oh, we're going to have a good game." What? So I think for Joe Milton, though, it's not like he's lacking talent. He doesn't lack confidence, and don't give me that who they played. No, they made who they played look that bad the first two. Don't get me. They didn't play nobody. Oh, but they did. It's just Joe Milton seems to be the guy that obviously, he looks like Adonis. I mean, he got the gold, he got the gold dreads and all this. I just hope he chooses not to have a good game on Saturday night. Just be less of himself. Because the thing about a guy like Joe Milton is, I mean, you talk about what he was able to do last year, in the Orange Bowl, and how much confidence he got. And I think a guy like, I think when you think about a Tennessee team, they're always letting people know, hey man, we still one of the blue bloods. Like, we still one of the ones that it's big news. Because since Hartwell has got there now, they've been something. That offense is something to deal with. And I know we talk a lot about Joe Milton offense. I'm happy that Florida gets Kings back, because that Tennessee D line, they will get after you. But it's Tennessee, Florida, and I think the thing about it is I know we a year or so away from the Pods. This is going to be one of the rivalries. I don't want to see it go away. It probably will. It's going to be disappointing, because I was there. 2000 was my freshman year. The catch, no catch with Jabbar Gaffney. I got Reggie White was at the game in 2000. I think he was at the game in 2002 in the rain.
Man.
So, Tennessee, Florida has a lot of great memories in it. Foreman went from being the coach to the AD. It just doesn't stop. The thing about Steve Spurrier is you couldn't stop his mouth back then. You definitely can't stop it now. He gonna have something to say. But people got to know, when I talk trash, that's a level of respect in sports. When I don't respect you, I don't say nothing to you. I'm not gonna respond. I'm not gonna say anything. But I am looking forward to the game. I think a guy like Joe Milton saw what happened last year's game, and I want some of that. I mean, that game was back and forth and fast. So we'll see what happens this year. But I will say to the people that make the schedules, I don't like night games, man. I got something to do with my life on Saturday, and they got me waiting up all day to have to deal with them creamsicle boys coming up in there. They can't wait to talk trash. But I do like Tennessee. I do think they bring out the best in Florida. Unfortunately, 2003, my senior year, was the last time they won. I hope Tennessee sticks with the memo and say, hey man, I'll go and have a great season. Just give Billy Napier his first big win. But no, I like it. I like it because that's why you play in the SEC. You don't want to run from nothing. But anybody that got something to say about Joe Milton and what he said, you're going to say it on social media. You're not going to say it to his face. So I think it'll be all right.
Yeah, let me say this. I was watching the Buddy Martin show last night. Great show, Monday through Thursday nights, which you're a big part of. And of course, they had a special guest. And you know how Buddy does. He'll be on your show, Mark and Ben, and all of a sudden he'll go, this happens on our show when he's on with us every week. Go, hold on, I got a call from Urban Meyer. I'll call y'all right back. Last night it was Steve Spurrier, and Steve Spurrier has difficulty understanding how to do StreamYard. So when Spurrier's on there, he had Allie Peak Wilbur, he had Brendan, his son, underneath him, and Buddy, and Spurrier coming through the speakerphone, and he would go, all right, coach, go ahead. And here's Spurrier coming back from his restaurant talking about the UT Florida game, Mark. It was awesome. He goes, had a big crowd in there tonight, like we always do. You know, we expect a lot of Tennessee Volunteers to be in there tomorrow night. Looking forward to having them there. Going to be a good game. Gators going to be ready. And it was, Mark, that's what you love about this rivalry is that it gets everybody fired up.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's Florida week. I mean, when you talk about rivalries, I mean, you have to win to make it a rivalries, but hopefully we're back. I think it's good when everybody's winning and everybody's good in the SEC. I mean, it makes for great football and great excitement. Look, back in the late 90s, when I was in grad school up here, you couldn't even get a ticket for the game. I mean, it was $300 and $400 back then, and
Wow.
Peyton's senior year in '97, I guess that was my first year of grad school. We stood in line all night long, to get tickets to go to Florida, to watch us get beat down there. So, it's one of those things that, when everyone's back, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we played Austin Peay this past week, and I'll tell you, my tailgate, I judge I judge really kind of fan crowds and enthusiasm by my tailgate. Because most of the small games like in Austin Peay, I mean, you get a few people there. But I'm telling you, man, it was the first home game, and it was packed. It was like the game last week when Roman Harper was there. I mean, you couldn't walk. Everybody was excited. Everyone's back. What's better than college football, in the fall? But anyway, we got to come down there, and we got to work hard. But, we haven't had great luck in the swamp, obviously. But I'll tell you that, the rivalries we have here are obviously Florida and Alabama are the ones that we want to win the most.
Yeah, and Mark, real quick, keys to the victory. Now, do you look at Tennessee, and Vince Ferrara will be on tomorrow from the Sports Animal in Knoxville, but the yards per pass, Ben, this is an interesting stat for y'all, is about half of what it was last year under Hendon Hooker. Mm-hmm. And Tennessee, though, has 2 of the top 4 running backs right now in the SEC, and more impressively, the run defense. And would you expect anything less from Coach G and the defensive linemen? 45 of his guys have gone on to play in the NFL. They're not all in there now because he's been around a while, but he always gets it done.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, look, last year Hendon Hooker is just, a talented guy. I think with Joe, the first game over in Nashville, if you watch that, I think they were being a little more conservative to try to get, some confidence for him. He threw a couple of deep balls, some guys dropped. So, we probably could have had more yardage there. But, I think it takes a little time. I mean, for a guy, you got to realize Hendon had been playing for a while at that point. And I think for Joe, I think when he settles down, he's able to make those throws. But, I'm sure it was a little bit of nerves when you come home and you're in front of 100,000 people. And even if you're playing Austin Peay, you still got some nerves out there. But I think we'll end up throwing the deep ball a little bit more. But we haven't so far. And I think the fans are a little frustrated because they're used to that long, deep ball. But, But again, back to what Ben said, he had a great game, and we threw the ball great, and we threw it downfield against Clemson. So, I don't know. Maybe they just weren't showing everything, but who knows? But look, I think it just takes a little time to get your feet underneath you. I mean, Ben would know better than I do. I mean, he's played in these big games.
Yeah, Ben, that's a question for you, and it's already coming in. Here's a question from a viewer from Naples, Florida, who says, "I'm a big Gator." He says, I'd like for Ben to get inside of Ben's head and tell us all week long, you're hearing about this game, social media, and all these things coming at you. How do you block that out in the world we live in today compared to, say, when you were playing? Good question from a listener, Jethro Toll, Naples, Florida.
I mean, the seasoned man that I am right now, I would say it's easy to block it out. But the truth is you don't. And I don't think you're supposed to. I think sometimes you got to people around you let you know how big something is, right? They let you know. Yeah. Brandon Spikes is back on campus getting his degree. Obviously, he's working with the linebackers, telling Scooby Williams and, the Shamar James. It's Tennessee week. And the thing about that is it doesn't matter what Tennessee has or hasn't been. The respect level has never dropped. It does not, because people look at the wins. Well, look at how close these games were not blowouts. They were very, very close games. So as a player, you young and naive enough to think that it's not big, but them coaches let you know, but it is, because you remember what happens in these games. You remember that's the greatest thing about being a player is you were what people celebrated, but of course you think about it. If you didn't think about it, coach wouldn't tell you every other second. I don't want to hear. I don't want you looking. They had the Gainesville. They had the Alligator. We actually used to read it when I was at Florida. Now they got social media. And when Joe Milton said what he said, he wasn't trying to go viral. But as soon as he said it, whoever was there, what he said. And I think that's what makes it great, right? Everybody talks about rivalries. You got two kind of rivalries. You got a rivalry that's only known within the conference, and you got national. Florida Tennessee is a national rivalry. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I played with a bunch of Vols, man. I played with Albert Haynesworth and Troy Fleming and Travis Henry. And those guys, every time you mention Florida, they just go, man, let's talk about something else. I don't like to talk about it. It's a respect level. And I just think that as a player, man, take advantage. I mean, special teams, you can make a play. I was offensive defense, you could. But as a former player, I would love to say, I just blocked it. There is no such thing as Tennessee week as a regular week. There is no such thing. And when Hyper got the job, these are the type of games you're like, look, man, I want to play against these dudes. I want to be able to say we were the reason why this thing started getting a little bit more balanced. Because if you go to Florida, yeah, you carry on the tradition of players that came before you, But if you're a current Florida Gator, you're going to be the one saying, hey, man, they about to go 2-0 against us back-to-back years. And as a because I have no say in the game, I be looking, you give them this look like, y'all know, which thank God I don't got to go out there because it's gonna get real bad. I don't have a play being. If you had to go out there, turn the lights out. I hope it's like Beyonce at the Super Bowl. I hope all the lights go out because I don't want to see that. I don't want to embarrass my family. But I will say, as a former player, man, it's the greatest because no matter where you go, and Florida and games when they got bougie, they got Whole Foods down there now, cheesecake. So you can't go nowhere now that somebody's saying, hey, y'all ready? And I think that's a good thing because as much as we want to, it's just another game, we live and die with it. We live and die with every single play, every single quarter. So hopefully those guys, and Brandon Spikes don't help. He don't help being back on the staff, telling Scooby Williams and those guys, it's like this. It don't matter if you can't beat Tennessee. And it's going to happen throughout the rest of the year. But it's true because when I first got drafted by the Titans, my roommate in the Millennium Maxwell house when I was a rookie was Troy Fleming. They could have gave me anybody to be a roommate with. And I got to the room before he did. So when he opened, I saw the 2 beds, and I'm like, why they got 2 beds in them? Okay. But I get there first. So when I hear a knock at the door, I'm thinking, so when as soon as I opened up the door, I knew who he was. So,
of course.
Listen, but I said, "Oh, what's up?" And I'm fixing to close the door. He's sticking his foot in the door. Like, "Are you like what?" So I'm thinking, "Hey, bro." And they said, "Wait a minute, we roommates." Obviously, we became really, really close friends when I was in Troy's wedding. Really, really good dude. But we had to get past that first. Like we made he looking at me and I'm looking at him, and I'm like, and I'm looking at him with that, man. What shade of orange is it? That's not orange for real. That's like a sun kiss. He was like, y'all on, and we got that out for about 30 minutes, and then we realized, and they beat us. That was both our senior years. It just means a little bit more to you, man, because bragging rights are forever. And as Jeff Chandler said, the older you get, the better you was. The older I get, I was the truth. Because there wasn't no way to validate it. Now, I was crashing my Kentucky saying one time I never got decleated, and then they went to the tape on special teams. They said, where were you at Florida? I said, it happened.
Ben, do you see this question here? James W. Buffett in Islamorada Key, Florida. That's the first of the Keys when you go out in the Keys. Great fishing. I one time nearly burned to death catching yellowfin tuna down there. We made fun of this old fella, Jack, from up in Lansing, Michigan. He was wearing long sleeve shirts, long pants, this big hat that looked like, somebody from Lawrence of Arabia covering every part of his body. And it was the Labor Day weekend. We went on a fishing boat with him. He was out there having a ball. We were all burned so bad, we begged the captain to take us back. Islamorada Key, Florida. Big Ben has another year of eligibility, doesn't he?
No, don't start the rumors, man. I'm not one of those guys, too. Like, how listen, I have the Florida-Tennessee series out way too good to me, man, because when I'm a country boy, I got to say, sweet tea and shade trees for life. I don't need – so when people talk – I will say this, though. My senior year was my first 100-yard game, right, against Tennessee. And what happened – we lost the game, right? So after the game, this is the naive stuff about you. You mad because you lost the game? The reporter goes, Ben, listen, 100 and something yards. I go, what? I said, I had 100. And once they said that, I said, wait. So I can't, man, I wish I could remember the linebacker's name now. But big time linebacker, short, little stocky guy, right? He tells me I saw him years later. He said, "You ain't never touched me in the game." Like when he saw me somewhere, he goes, "You ain't never touched me." There is a picture. He tackled me. This is the craziest thing. I caught the ball and I stiff armed him to the ground, but it's like I won and lost because I stiff armed him, but he still tackled me. So in his mind, I didn't win that play. I'm gonna get the clip and I'm gonna let y'all decide. But the fact that you see me in the supermarket or somewhere, I think it was at like an event, and he says, I think his name was Kevin Simon.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
Kevin Simon
said,
I was who I was thinking, but I couldn't remember his name. It's from California.
Think about
Yes,
how crazy this is.
from Concordia, California.
Yep.
We had an event, and this guy's staring at me. So you know when somebody stares at you, you kind of do your head like this to make sure it's them. I'm like, what? And I look behind me. I'm like, what are you looking? So he walks up to me. I can't remember who I'm talking with. I had to push him to the side, like, man, stay right here. This dude got a problem with something. Then he goes, Kevin Simon, Tennessee. I go, oh, what's up, man? He goes, you never touched me, right? I said, Kevin, how long you been wanting to tell me that? Like, how long? But that's how serious it is. It's like once we've had our time, we has-beens, man. That's what Ron Zook used to tell me. The greatest compliment you can get as a player, you're a has-been. That means at one point you was one of those guys. I just think that for me, Tennessee think our shade of orange is ugly, and they think their shade of orange is pretty. It's nice, and it's not. It's not. But I respect them. I can that orange top with the white bottom and the black shoes with the white. You don't wear white socks with black shoes, people. Tennessee does it, and they do it on purpose to piss people off like me. But no, Joe Milton. I will say this: big fan of Joe Milton. I've learned I'm a fan of college football players first. College football second, and my team third. So, of course, I can't root for him on Saturday, but of course, I want to see because people think, man, listen, that boy from the muck. He grew up chasing rabbits and put a rabbit on the ground, and it'll take off, and he'll go and they'll catch it. That's how they decide who's what. Now, I don't think he's catching no rabbits now. He's a big boy, right? He looked like a tight end out there, but I just want to see a good game. I think the biggest thing for me is who I'm rooting for on Saturday, but I want to see a good game. And because last year, I don't know how many years I took off my life last year, but I know I took a couple. That game last year was crazy, but I hope Hendon Hooker is the reason why Joe Milton understands how to play the position, not that he plays it. That's either going to be real good or real bad. But when the starter and the backup are best friends, Graham Mertz didn't know Anthony Richardson. He need to give him a call this week and say, hey, Graham, you are not me. Don't start that crazy that you cannot do what I did. Yeah. But great run game with Florida. Great run defense with Tennessee. Great run game with Tennessee. We're going to see what type of run defense we got with Florida. That's what you like, right? Because Hyper said, y'all think we are air raid. No, we run that thing. Y'all, it just looks like that at the stats. I'm looking forward to it, man. Like I said, I don't got no horse in this fight. Troy Fleming, we don't talk that much. I guarantee you he gonna be texting. If Tennessee wins, I'm cutting my phone off because I already know I'm gonna get a lot of. I am. I'm just being honest. But when I turn it on, it's gonna be, hey boy, don't be turning your phone off. Don't act like. But that's Albert Haynesworth. That go another one. But no, man. I just hope it's a good game, and I hope these players really understand what they get to be about. Like this thing is. Yeah. I get these other rivalries across the country. People talking about Colorado State. Stop playing with me. It's only because of the stop it. Let's just stop this, right? Yeah. I'm just looking forward to, when them balls run out that big old gigantic T, and it's gonna be a Peyton Manning sighting somewhere. Yeah. Oh yeah, because and
an orange and white button down.
If Joe Milton audible and he say Omaha, I'm gonna go to Gainesville and I'm beat the hell out of you. Better not Omaha. I'm gonna beat him up. No, man, I just want it to be a good game. I'm so happy for these players embracing, because the same way it's a lot of pressure on you when you the starting quarterback at Florida. I couldn't even imagine being the starting quarterback at Tennessee in the state of Tennessee. That's a lot of pressure, man. It's a lot of pressure. Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping it's a good game. But like I said, Joe Milton, if you want to just dumb it down a little bit, just a little bit, come up with a call for something. It's fine, man. It's one game, man. You got the rest of the season to look for.
Well, I like that take on there. And Mark, here's a question from a viewer. Mark Keys for Tennessee on Saturday in the Swamp. And I think Ben hit on a lot of them, but we hadn't seen everything out of Tennessee. They hadn't needed to show everything. You referenced that earlier in the broadcast.
Yeah, I think, if you look at last year, we were putting up so many points so quick, right? I mean, we just, probably averaging 40-something points a game. And this year, it's been a little slower. I mean, I went to the first game, we were, again, throwing kind of, weren't throwing the ball across the middle a lot, weren't throwing the ball deep. I think that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to get back to not being who we were, so to speak. But the last 2 years, we've been throwing the ball deep and downfield, and it seemed like a lot of the wide receivers were wide open, when you're throwing 30 and 40-yard, passes downfield. And we really haven't done that. He's been throwing a lot of short balls, because if you look at it, he threw for 228 yards last week, and, Hooker was throwing for, 450 yards a game. So I think throwing the ball deep is going to be key. I think the run game's been pretty good this year. But you've got to be able to run the ball. That probably opens up some of the pass. But and the defense is, has done okay. But again, they've done pretty well with, some of the sacks, and they've got some decent stats, coming along. But I think the key, I think personally, is you gotta hit some of those deep balls for touchdowns, kind of like we did against Alabama. You just gotta try to get some 1-on-1s out there, and got to get somebody. Of course, when you got Jalen Hyatt who can outrun everybody, that's a different story. But I think the deep ball is something that we haven't seen this year, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of that.
Yeah. Let me say this real quick. I was muted in the first part. I'm looking at all these comments that were coming in from people, but I've got to get this out. Clays for Kids coming up September 22nd, Memphis Sports Shooting Association. That's the gun club out in Arlington. This is going to be for benefiting the Ronald McDonald House, which is located across the street from St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. 53 rooms there. I've been down there, met with the people. You always meet with a family of one of the patients going through cancer treatments. And, boy, it puts things in perspective. You'll pray with them, and they'll tell you what they go through. And the volunteers down there at Ronald McDonald House, reach out to them and help them. They provide meals and everything for them. It's a mission from God, what these people do. September 22nd, they have 2 of the $3,000 4-man sports shooting teams available, and 1 of the $1,500 4-man shooting teams. Guys, gals, like I said, Caroline Baker, Lil Bird, my cousin's daughter, that's Dave's daughter, Caroline, they can shoot the wings off a fly at 70 paces, man. It's awesome. They can shoot too. So here's what you get for this. 2 4-man shooting teams, again, at $3,000 and 1 at $1,500. Reserved golf carts, a sponsor. Thank you on social media with your logo. Sponsor logo and website recognized on www.claysforkidsmemphis.com. Sponsor logo displayed at dedicated sporting clay stations. There's 14 of them out there. It's an awesome course. Ammunition provided and verbal recognition at the tournament. It's a great day, Friday, September 22nd. Call Chip Greer, 901-482-5680. And remember, Mark and Ben, this is what you love about the rivalries. And I like what Ben said just a second ago, because I'm the same way. I've got friends. I mean, hell, I remarried. Okay, I'm married to Vol for life. Mark's cousin Audrey, like his sister. I love her. And the whole family, they're all Tennessee. Kurt, my brother-in-law. Ben, you'd love his man cave up in Clarksville, Tennessee. He's got the Marine Kevlar helmet with a bayonet, and it's hanging on there. 26 years in the Marine Corps, 81 to 07, from Somalia to Fallujah and everywhere else. I go, did they give you that helmet when you retired from the Marine Corps? And he goes, hell no, I took it. I mean, but his man cave is orange and white everywhere. I mean, and this is what I love, but Ben nailed it. I respect the college football players first before anything else, because my parents made me do this as a kid, and it's a tradition we've always done. Go outside the locker room after the game, win or lose, especially after a loss. And these are somebody's sons. There's so many people. I mean, Ben, when you went away and played for Florida, I bet you there were a lot of people in Swainsboro and Augusta that pulled for you that were not Florida fans because they love Ben Troupe. Coaches, a pastor, guidance counselors, teachers, maybe a local judge, that knew you. Anybody. I mean, you knew everybody there. But I noticed that I pull for, if somebody's from Memphis, I'm going to pull for them, whoever they play for. And did you feel that?
I did. They help you. The fans always help you gain the perspective that you lack. It's not that you don't understand it, but that's something that really, really stood out for me last year with a guy in Anthony Richardson was, after the Kentucky loss, right? He had a certain demeanor. But then he learned that, man, you still got to go out there and take pictures. You still got to go out there and smile. That's a part of your obligation. I don't care that they're 2021. No, because the fans help you understand, man, sometimes they just there to see you. Yes, they want a certain team to win, but when I'm in the National Football League, man, and we go play Green Bay at Green Bay, and then after the game, I'm like, what is all these people in the corner doing? That's Brett Favre. He will sit there and sign every last autograph. And it's something my father said. He said, man, you live long enough for your signature to become an autograph, man. You don't look past that. People want – so, yeah, but that's the overwhelming part of it is, right? Like, we're still 18, 19, like to play video games, but we got to we play for the Vols or Florida, so on and so forth. But it's when that kid goes, Ben, 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 and you reach over, and you get their card and you sign it. You have to normalize – like abnormal, situations. You got the normal, and that's what college athletics is, right? Because it's not everybody's getting asked for autographs. But I think that, the Joe Miltons of the world, their life is very, very unique because of the position they play and the university that they represent, right? Or the college that they represent. But when you go to press conferences, you still do them if you lose with the same energy, and you go out there because the autographs. Those are the people that's going to send you stuff later on in life saying, hey, Joe whomever, I used to watch you. The last thing you want to say is, man, not right now. I don't really, because the pandemic was the craziest year we ever seen because they had to perform in stadiums with nobody in. That's crazy, right? I think that these players now, they understand. But, to everybody that support, how many Georgia fans hate it that I went to Florida. And now our teachers turned on me, man. When I signed to go to Florida, these happy-go-lucky teachers, they telling me to be quiet, stop all that talking. Who you looking at? I'm like, come to find out, they rep them boys in Athens. But I think too, though, we can never tell the fans thank you enough, right? Yeah, because they show up regardless. Yeah, and like my granddaddy said, he said beer got invented for two things: baseball and college football. That's why I got invented. You don't got to like it. Because you got to find a way to deal with this pain in baseball. Will it take 14 hours for one game? So you got to find some way to.
Hey Ben, hold that thought. Look, y'all hang on with me if you can because we're gonna have a wild show today. Gary Harris is gonna check in a minute from Tide 100.9, Tider Insider TV in Tuscaloosa, and then at the top of hour number 2, Matt Dean, the coach from over in Memphis at Rhodes. Part of the 80 angle. He'll be on with us. His son's on the staff at Oregon. He'll give some cool perspective. And also Frank Duffy, go Tigers, from either somewhere north, Big Canoe, Jasper, Georgia. He could be in New Orleans. No telling where Frank Duffy is. He's going to join us. So we're going to take a quick break. Great stuff. Love the stuff here from Chris Saxon, Patrick Kudus. That's his nephew, and we all know the Saxons and the Kuduses from Christian Brothers High School. Patrick is starting at right tackle for the Arkansas Razorbacks now. And it's really cool to see that. And also Christian James, my friend Bill and Sheila's son, who is a defensive tackle, hopefully be back next week from an injury, 6'5", 290, had 32 tackles, guys, last year for the Commodores, 4.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, and he's a black belt in Taekwondo and also jiu-jitsu and practices mixed martial arts. Hell of a kid, great kid. We'll be right back after this quick break on Sidelines with great stuff after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House Equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Rob Browne back here with you. And I tell you what, Gary Harris is on with us right now. Gary, got a wild one going right now. Ben Troupe, Florida Gator, Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. And now with you, and I said, nothing going on in Tuscaloosa. No excitement, nothing to talk about. Just keep driving along. And by the way, Gary and I were yesterday. I sent him a text. Can you come on Thursday at 8:30? And he said, Jerry can't, but Gary can. I hate audio text. Siri is illiterate, and when you send stuff, I think half the time it doesn't go out like you think. But Gary, you do a great show, Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa every day, Monday through Friday, and also sports anchor for WVUA TV Channel 23. And you and Rodney Orr do a great show called Tider Insider TV, 6:30 p.m. Tuesday nights on YouTube. And Alan Gates and Duncan Williams and great people that support this show, sponsors of mine, big Alabama fans are all going, put that ball in Gary's hand and let the big dog run. Let's go, Gary.
So most of the fans probably want it in my hand more than they want it in Jalen Milroe's. I've witnessed a lot of fallouts here every time you lose a game. It's unbelievable, the patience level. And I know it's this way at most fan bases, but at Alabama, you drop one, especially at home, to a good team, and it doesn't matter. They're wanting somebody to pay the price. Even a lot of suggestions that, maybe it's past saving by. So, we'll see going forward what this team is able to do. I think that you and I have talked about, when you look at their roster, I see a lot of good, still a lot of really good players. And, I don't know that I see special, the way that they've had it in the past. I look at the defensive line, I see good. Look at the linebackers, I see good. Look at the offensive line, I see good. Running backs, I see good. Wide receivers, I see good. I don't see, when you've had a run of first-round draft picks the way this program has had, and Heisman Trophy winners and first-team All-Americans, you're used to special. And, I don't know that this team is special. I think they're good. And when you're good, you've got a chance to win a lot of games, and you also got a chance to lose some games. And I just think that's where they're at. I think they can beat anybody left on their schedule. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind about that. At the same time, I think they can lose some of those games too. And and all these guys, all of you know this, it's never all on the quarterback. And is he a big part of it? Sure. I thought Jalen Milroe made some terrific plays in the game. Made some incredible throws, and he made some bad plays. And it doesn't help when I think there's been 12 bad snaps in the first two games, and some of them are just terribly bad snaps when they roll it back down the ground. I don't know if McLaughlin, I know he's wearing something on his hand. I don't know if he's got a bad hand or what's going on there. But the offense against Texas, they're just kind of running in mud, running uphill the whole game, and mistakes and turnovers and penalties. And then yet Milroe hits Burton there at the end of the third quarter on a beautiful play, a deep ball, and all of a sudden you go into the fourth quarter with a lead, and you're at home and you feel like, you're in good shape. And the defense, which I thought had played really well, they held Texas to 13 points. And I'm telling you, this Ewers is something else now. He's a load. He's a good quarterback. And you take the lead 16-13, and then Texas immediately goes, of course, helped by a big penalty. Texas goes 3 plays, 75 yards, and goes back in front. And then Milroe throws the unfortunate interception on the very next play after Texas scores, and they go up 10. And they went ahead and put the game away. You got to give them credit. I think when Alabama loses a game, a lot of people are always, what did Alabama do wrong? Sometimes the other team plays well. Sometimes the other team is good, and you just have to give the other team credit. And I think Texas is a really good team. I think Sark this is his third year. And when you look at their roster, because we know with all the roster movement now, they got a lot of fifth-year guys. And I'm not talking about fifth-year guys that just hung around because they weren't very good. I'm talking about fifth-year guys that were highly recruited and now kind of coming into their own. They're a very mature football team. That defensive line, of course, I have all the respect in the world for Bo Davis, having been around him here and know what kind of defensive line coach he is. And I thought that defensive line looked like the Alabama defensive lines, from 4 or 5 years ago. So they're a really good team. It's a tough loss for Alabama. And, fans hear Tyler Booker say, well, we can still accomplish our goals, and they get mad. Well, what you talking about, dude? You lose a game. Players don't have the same luxury that fans do to still be talking about the Texas game. You got to move on to the next one. And, South Florida on paper is an outmatched opponent, but it is on the road, and you get ready for that one. And then you worry about Ole Miss next week. So that's all they can do. But I probably give Texas more credit than I give Alabama blame. I thought that, Saturday night, that's a good team. It's, they feel like it's their time, and it may be. We'll see what they do with this. But they were ready to go, and I thought they outplayed Alabama and won the game.
Yeah. Here's a question from Clarence Beeks in Alberta, Alabama. That's on the north side of Wolf Bay. We were down in Orange Beach last week. Wish I was still down there, Gary. God, what a place to watch. And Bama's been here before. What's your gut feeling about what is the biggest problem, if you could put your finger on it? And Gary, you said it best last year after the Tennessee loss. When Alabama loses under Nick Saban, it's epic.
Yeah, most of the time it has been. And I guess that's kind of what made this game a little bit different is that, with 7 minutes to go, Texas gets the ball back up 10. And, you're thinking you get the ball back, anything can happen. You're down 10, but if you kick a field goal to get it to one-score game, they never got the ball back. Texas bled the clock out. And so it was most of the time that since I've been watching Saban, you're right. When Alabama loses a game, we saw it at Tennessee. It's a guy knuckleballs a field goal over on the last play of the game, or they get Johnny Manziel, or they get Cam Newton, or they get kick sixth, or overtimed, or whatever. And in this game, it was a good competitive football game, but Texas had won the game. There wasn't, some fluke play or, it's going to come down to the final play or any of that. So as far as what is the biggest issue, I do think that. And I like Milroe. I mean, I know fans don't want to hear it, but they hear dual threat and they think that immediately, for some reason, in Alabama, you hear dual threat and they say the guy can't throw. The guy can throw. Did he make a couple of bad decisions? Sure, but they do have to get the offense in sync. And Bryce Young's not going to run out there on Saturday, and Jalen Waddle and Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs, they're not running out there on Saturday, and Derrick Henry's not running out there on Saturday. So I don't know if I call it a problem. I just think that this team is not as uber talented as some of these other teams. And like I said, when you're good, you still have an opportunity to have a special season. But Alabama's had some teams around here. Let's just be honest. They went out on the field. You knew they were going to beat the other team. Even in the look test coming out of the tunnel, you just said this team can't compete with Alabama. It's not that way now. So it's just going to be a competitive season. It was last year. It's going to come down in the 3 or 4 games that are going to make the difference in this season. It's probably going to come down to 3 or 4 plays. If Alabama makes those plays, they're going to have a chance to get to Atlanta. If they don't, they're not. And to me, it's just that simple. They're a good team with a lot of other good teams in the SEC West trying to get to Atlanta, but they're not elite in the sense that they can take anybody for granted in the conference. So we'll see what they do. We'll see what they do at quarterback. Even the defense now, again, the lack of pressure from the interior defensive line is a concern. And in the last game, the edge guys, Dallas Turner, I was looking for 15. I never saw the guy make a play. So they got questions to get to Clarence's point. I'm not the coach, so it's hard for me to answer that. But they certainly want to try to get better, as most teams do. Win or lose the next game. And again, fans I'm not criticizing fans because fans want to win every game, but it's different for how a team approaches the season than how a fan approaches the season. And win or lose the previous game, a football team's trying to get better. And that's what they'll try to do on Saturday. And then next week, you get ready for your SEC opener at home against Ole Miss.
Yeah. Ben?
I mean, even sticking with that, though, when you think about a team, Texas won 2019 last year. Ewers got hurt, and you see the type of player he is. I know that Milroe is dealing with the fact that he gets compared to, Jalen and Mac and Tua. But how much dangerous does this make Alabama? Because Nick Saban, win or lose, them press conferences are rough. I mean, whoever, and I praise y'all guys that had to deal with them, but how much better do you see them becoming? Because even these other teams still trying to figure out who they are. Does that make them a problem moving forward? Because obviously they've already lost the game.
Yeah. I think, Ben, they can get a lot better. And now I'm going to be honest. Obviously, I'm going to come in here and tell a fib. I do think they are continuing to rep more than one quarterback in practice. And I think Saturday against South Florida, I think Jalen Milroe is going to start the game. And I do think we're going to see Tyler Buckner as the second quarterback, the Notre Dame transfer. And I'm not talking about in the final minutes of the game when it's decided. I think we're going to see him, whether it's the first half or the third quarter, but I think we're going to see him in the game to play some series when it matters. And I do think they've got a chance to get better. I mean, I look at the running game, and it did not do much against Texas. Early on, they had some success. They've got some good backs. And physically, the offensive line looks imposing. I mean, there's been a lot made since Cole Kubelik on the SEC Network pointed out that they've got 3 starters that are 350 or more. Maybe that's not a good thing. The left tackle, Caden Proctor, a true freshman, who's very, very gifted, very talented. I think was rated the #1 offensive tackle in the signing class last year in the country. But I think he probably needs to lose some weight. I mean, that being that big isn't necessarily always the best thing. So I think they're still trying to find their way as a football team. They lost Bryce Young. They lost Will Anderson. And again, I think we're all just kind of brainwashed into thinking the next year Alabama will just roll somebody else out there that's an All-American to replace guys. And that's not the case. And the quarterback position, after you've had Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa and Mac Jones and Bryce Young as your last 4 starting quarterbacks, and you watch Sunday, every one of those guys is starting in the NFL. And Bryce Young is a rookie. They don't have that at quarterback right now with any of these guys. But I do think they've got quarterbacks that have talent. And I still think Jalen Milroe, contrary to what people are saying, I think he's a talented guy. And I think he throws the football. He's got the arm ability to throw the football. He can make all the throws. Now, all this stuff about processing information and reading the defenses, I don't know what they're doing on offense. It's hard for me, just because a guy throws an interception, I think it's popular to say, well, he can't read the defense. Well, I watched the quarterback Ryan Tannehill for the Titans throw 3 interceptions on Sunday. He's been playing for, 11, 12 years in the league. And I think he can read a defense. Sometimes you throw an interception. Sometimes you don't see a guy, regardless of how. So I think that they can get a lot better. And I feel like that they will. I feel like this team, I said this before the season, before they lost, I think Alabama's football team will be better in November than it is in September. So that's what you hope for.
Yeah. Art?
Yeah, I guess I have a question for you. Last year, I guess it was last year. I think we were watching, wasn't Rob, when what's the defensive guy from Georgia that came on? He was on there with Saban. He was the ESPN announcer.
David Pollack.
Yeah, and he made the statement that Georgia's taking over college football, and Nick Saban kind of looked at him like, "Oh my God, really? I just want to rip your throat out." What are your thoughts there? I mean, Kirby has really been recruiting really, really well, as good if not better than Bama at times. But what's the difference? They seem to be about the same in recruiting year over year, but. Is Kirby outpacing Alabama at this point? Is Saban getting too long in the tooth, or what's going on? I see him as the GOAT and the most successful guy out there. I know he's really, really has a fire inside him to compete, but I don't want to see Georgia do better. I want to see Alabama beat those guys. So what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think Kirby's really good, and I watched him here for 9 years as the defensive coordinator, and he's a very intense guy. You're seeing that now as a head coach. I saw it when he was an assistant coach. I tell this story often. I guess pretty early on, maybe 2009, somewhere in there. They do this thing Saban does where you have media guys as the guest coaches during the A-Day game, which you don't do anything but stand on the sideline. And you go in the locker room, and at halftime of the A-Day game, I watched him wear those guys out, and I'm sitting there thinking, and this is a practice game, and he was this and that, and I mean, just like you see when he's coaching Georgia, and this is at a practice game. I mean, I saw Allen Iverson. I was sitting back thinking, man, this guy's got a screw loose. But that's the kind of intensity that he has, and I knew, everybody talks about the blueprint. You coach under Saban. Having the blueprint and being able to install it are different things. I mean, you can give me a blueprint to a big building. I look at it. I don't know what it means. I can't go build that building. But I think Kirby understood exactly what it took at this level, having been with Saban for so long, not just at Alabama, but LSU and the Dolphins, and he was ready for the job. He's done a really good job. I think the gap is probably never quite as wide as people want to make it out to be. I go back to 2021, and I was in Atlanta when Alabama was an underdog there, and I watched them wear Georgia out in that SEC championship game, and Bryce Young absolutely picked them apart with Mechie and Jamison Williams, and that was that Georgia defense that people said was impenetrable. And Mechie goes down with a knee injury in that game, and then Williams goes down in the first half in the national championship game. And, Alabama still had the lead with 8 or 9 minutes to go in that game. And I do think, it's a lot like, if Colt hadn't got hurt, but if Alabama had its receivers, I do think Alabama would have won that football game. And then it might be a different conversation. I don't think that would have kept Georgia from winning it last year. But Kirby's still beaten Alabama just one time. Now, he beat them in a very important game. Now, to your point, do I think right now Georgia's at a higher level than Alabama? Absolutely. They have won the last 2 national championships. But to your point, I do think that Kirby is doing a lot of the things that Saban did here. And, when you go to a program like Georgia that hadn't won a national championship in 40 years, it's kind of like when Saban got here. People are hungry. People, it's the way it is at Florida right now. You have success, and then you have a little bit of a down spiral. Tennessee, people are hungry. I mean, you rally the troops. I'm not talking about just the players. I'm talking about the support people. I'm talking about the fan base. Everybody's all in. And then when you have success, it's like Saban says, climbing a mountain's one thing. It's a lot harder to stay there. And Georgia's going to start dealing with that. So I just think what's happening to Alabama is, I hate to say it's inevitable, but to some degree it's inevitable. I mean, when you're being chased every year, somebody's going to catch you ultimately, and it's going to get harder and harder. And like I said, I just think that's where Alabama's at right now. Now, can Saban turn the dial one more time and reinvent himself and get back up there and win another national championship? I don't know. I mean, I think that if there's anybody that can, it's him. But right now, I think you're looking at Georgia. They are where Alabama was just a few years ago, and Alabama's kind of where Georgia was. Alabama's the pursuer and not the pursuee, as Buford T. Justice would say from Smokey and the Bandit. So that's kind of.
And I have a Dr. Pepper and a Diablo sandwich.
And make it fast. That's just kind of where they're at right now. Alabama's a really good team, but I would say that they're not elite at the moment.
Yeah. Well, here's a question. Tell Rod, this is Gary. He watches the show every day. But about Devin Manuel at Arkansas, weighed 390 last year, dropped down to 290. Good God, losing 100 pounds. Is back up to 315, but he's 6'9". A real quick, couple of quick questions. I'm going to take this one from Boris Karloff in Asheville, North Carolina. Wow. USF's coach is the former offensive coordinator at Tennessee under Josh Heupel. Talk about that matchup. And then as a follow-up on that one, here's another question. From Al Davis, and you follow Alabama. Why is Alabama traveling to USF? And Gary, I know you just got a few minutes, but great stuff. I tell you, you are absolutely why you got to tap into the local markets, because you get it. You absolutely get it.
Let me say something about Alex Golesh, who is an outstanding offensive mind. Of course, Heupel has a lot to say with that too. He was wanting to know about the matchup. The biggest issue for Alex Golesh on Saturday is he doesn't have Tennessee's players on offense. He doesn't have Hyatt and those guys.
There you go.
He'll have a good plan. There's no doubt. But I mean, I'm just being honest with you about it.
He'll have the blueprint, right?
Yeah, he'll have the blueprint. And he'll have a good plan. But he
and a blind architect.
He won't have those wide receivers and that quarterback. But and the part about going to Tampa, it's a 2-for-1. USF's going to come back twice to Tuscaloosa, and I think Saban, that's a fertile recruiting area, and so it's a chance for Alabama to go down there and play in Tampa. That's another reason they're going. So, hey guys, man, I enjoyed it. I appreciate it a lot.
Tell people how they can follow you and keep up with all your great work, and we'll do this again next week.
Well, I always say on Twitter, but I guess it's X now, right? At Gary Harris _WVUA. It's Tide109.com, and on the TV side, it's WVUA23.com. I also have a WVUA23 Gary Harris Facebook page. Thank you so much, guys. I enjoyed it.
Have a great week. That is great stuff. I tell you guys, Gary, I remember, Mark, we were pulling back into Granny to Ann Hamm's on the way back from Knoxville last year, that Sunday night. And Gary called me on the phone because we were coming back from the Tennessee-Alabama game. And we were talking about it. And he made that comment. He said, it's just the fans at Alabama. I mean, my God, when you win like that, once you've eaten the best steak in town, the best fish, the best whatever. By the way, speaking of good food, you ever in Orange Beach, Alabama, go to Lartigue's Seafood? I brought back home a stuffed chicken with crawfish etouffee in it, and threw the thing in a cast iron skillet, put in the oven last night for an hour and 15 minutes with a little olive oil. Oh my God. That's something that you dream about. But anyway, got me off track. Said it's epic when Alabama loses. And when you win like that, Ben, you know this as a player, and Mark, my God, Tennessee fans, you said 3-4 years ago, the judge would give people the choice of $11.29 in the Knox County lockup or season tickets to Tennessee football. I'll take the $11.29. I mean, and here's Tennessee, the 9th winningest program in the history of college football. Ben, Florida is a blue blood program. Don't say they're not ever. I mean, because you've won 3 national championships in the last 30 years. That's a blue blood program. I remember last year somebody put out on X, we'll just call it X, Twitter, whatever, is Georgia a blue blood program? And I'm like, is the Pope Catholic? Come on, don't be stupid. Mark?
Yeah, I agree. I think, if you look at the SEC, it's definitely the best conference in all of college football, and everybody's chasing, those guys. I can tell you, I haven't, been here for the Alabama game last year. Did I happen to jump over and get on the field and carry one of the goalposts at 54 years old? I did. Yeah. Because we were hungry, right? I mean, we haven't won since 98. And, you go through all these years of just the desert and, I had 9 season football tickets. I walked by a guy one day and he was there with his son a couple of years ago during the Pruitt years. And he's like, how much you want? I said, how about $5? And he's like, how about free? I said, here, just take them all. I mean, you couldn't give tickets away. It was awful.
Wow.
Nowadays, it's funny how many fans are Tennessee fans again. They show up to the tailgates, they're all back. I'm like, where have you been the last 15 years? Oh, my kids had soccer and I had travel ball and I had this and I had that. I said, yeah, but they're winning and you're back now. I guess all that stopped all of a sudden. You weren't here during the lean years, but I agree. I mean, you get hungry. Everybody up here is hungry. You donate, you go, you want them to win. It's in your blood. But I think he's right that Alabama set a standard that's pretty high. It's really high, and everyone's chasing them. So it was David and Goliath last year for us, and for us to throw that last stone and that stone was a knuckleball over the goalpost, but people went nuts, and it's amazing to see. It's just what college football is all about. But I agree. I think Bama is still there. Obviously, Georgia got that fire underneath them. Florida's going to have the same thing, and we got the same thing. I mean, everybody, you got to set a goal. You got to chase it, whether it's in football or business. You want to beat your competition. You want to be the best. So it drives people to get out there and grit it out a little bit more.
And along the line of what Mark just said, that standard at Florida is really high. You go out, doesn't work out. Utah had everything to do with that game against Florida. But Franz Beard pointed out something on the show Monday. Florida's defense in the first 2 games has averaged being on the field for only 47 snaps. If they can do that, they're going to be rested. That favors them Saturday. Talk about that. That's an interesting stat.
Oh, Coach Armstrong, I mean, the reason why Florida didn't win the first game wasn't because our brand new defensive coordinator. He's a guy that understands that I'm 29. I think he might be 30 years old now. The same eyebrows that people gave Billy Napier this year and last year, they gave it to him because you don't get to go from where he was to where he is, in the off season. But I think sometimes when you talk about what goes on in a place like Florida and Tennessee, when people say the notion of you have no clue how bad the players want to win, like it's a different level of like just craziness when you start talking. But sometimes, like you mentioned, certain teams just say, "Oh, we got great traditions," but they have to tell you what they are. You don't got to tell nobody what a Tennessee tradition is. And the easiest way to look, or a Florida tradition is, Ron Zook used to tell us, "I set the expectation, y'all drive it." You know how hard it is to drive expectations every single week because you judged on what you didn't do. You praise for what you do. But I think for the players is Alabama loses, it is national news. Sports networks or not. Alabama lost. Who the hell beat them, right? And then people will say Texas is back. Texas. The all-time winning coach is Texas Mac Brown. He's also the all-time winning coach in North Carolina, and he had that when he was at Texas. When people get to saying, but that's what people expect. There are certain the Tennessees, the Floridas, the Texas, the Alabamas, the Georgias, the LSUs, the Auburns. The reason why they expect to win it because we've seen them win it. Now it's not going to happen every single year, but I think you make a great point, Mark, when you say, "Where were y'all at?" Oh, my kid. So when Tennessee's winning, don't you got a kid in travel ball now? Yeah, but his mom takes him. I got to because what it really is this. What college football is this. We are all front runners. But the problem is the people who are diehard, they show up. It's like I get more of a attitude when it comes to fan bases who understand, hey man, that cake you like, yeah, you ever seen it made? You should see them make it. Because I get it's good. And we're the one that got to make it every single day. And I think too, like I said, Tennessee, when I think Tennessee, I think Phillip Fulmer. I think Peyton Manning, right? Peyton Manning has a wing in Tennessee that you can't even go in. It's locked. I got to go speak there one time. Yeah. They did the greatest quarterbacks in the SEC. They had Peyton Manning as number one. They had him over Danny Warfel. I was pissed. I said, what? Because Peyton Manning is the first ballot Hall of Famer in the NFL. But Peyton Manning is Tennessee. I played against Peyton Manning when he was with the freaking Colts, and they used to cheer for him when we at home. I'm like, this isn't – he don't got a T on his chest. He's playing for the Colts. He got bums like Reggie Wayne and Marvin Harrison and Dallas Clark. They finna beat the hell out of us. And y'all cheering for him because they couldn't separate. I used to think the NFL is the creme de la creme.
Yeah, Ben, hold that thought. Hold that thought. We got to take a quick break. You were on a roll. You're right. We got Matt Dean over in Memphis in the bullpen. Frank Duffy. This is about to be a lot of fun. We're going to put the band back together after this quick commercial message. And I'm going to tell you, Ben, you're right about all the people that come before you. And I referenced Bobby Louder, longtime Auburn booster and just a hell of a man. When he won the Lifetime Achievement Award from Auburn last year, I was told he got very emotional. Doesn't happen very often with him. And he said, we all want to drink from the well, but let's not forget those who dug the well. And you just hit on that, Ben. Great point. Take a quick commercial break. Hour number 2, right back after this. Get your football on, folks. It's going to be fun.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I'm Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All right, Rob Browne, let's bring in Frank Duffy from the bullpen here, and also Matt Dean. This is going to be a lot of – we got a rocking and rolling, man. We're talking Tennessee, Florida. We're talking about Alabama. We're talking about college football, the game we love. And real quick, here is a question, and I'm going to throw this one to Matt Dean because he kind of, understands this one. Question from Sharon Jean Mercer. Sharon Jean, isn't that Roy D's wife? In Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Will OU be able to succeed in the SEC faster than Texas? If not, why not? Go Sooners, Boomer Sooner, Matt Dean.
I would say no, and my example is Saturday night.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Texas just went into Alabama and won and has a tremendous class back-to-back. Arch Manning's in the wings waiting to be the next quarterback. That's a no-brainer. Sorry, Sharon.
Sharon, there's an O in there somewhere, Sharon Jean. Frank Duffy said you're feeling a little bit hoarse right now. And Your thoughts right now on SEC football from where you thought we would be as a league, because there's only and I got some interesting stats I pulled up last night. The SEC is 3-6 versus Power 5 teams so far this year. Only Auburn, Tennessee, and Mississippi State have beaten Power 5 teams, and Tennessee routed a Virginia team, which basically is like beating up a man in a wheelchair. Virginia's terrible. And then Mississippi State had to go to overtime to beat Arizona, and Auburn had to steal one on the road. The offense was just god-awful against Cal. And then Texas A&M, by the way, is 3-9 in their last 12 Power 5 contests. Frank Duffy, you're on the clock.
In the immortal words of Jed Clampett, pitiful. That's the Aggies, man. But look, hey, I don't throw any stones. When my team went out there and coughed up a hairball, my Tigers didn't look too good against Florida State. But I will say, Florida State's going to be there at the end of the year. You watch. That's a playoff team. They're that good. But I agree with Ben. I don't think Texas has arrived. I think Alabama's taking a step back. I think it's going to take them a while for them to get, work Milroe into shape. By the way, that's good for the rest of us. Bringing the GOAT back down to earth a little bit. It's pretty good. I don't know what we're going to do for that other GOAT in the making over there in Athens. That beast. By the way, they had a little slow start last week as well. So, no, the SEC does not look good in our non-conference games starting out. But you know as well as I do, once we get into midseason form and you have to run that gauntlet, whoever comes out of the SEC, even with the SEC West being a little suspect this year, whoever comes out of that and comes out of Atlanta, you're going to see them in the playoff. And, again, they're going to be the odds-on favorite to win the national championship. They just are.
Yeah, Mark, you've got a daughter who's a sophomore at Georgia, and she's taking all your tickets for that game coming up in November. And, Georgia's going to have they got a couple of games in November, y'all. Georgia's got to play Tennessee and Ole Miss. But, you look at the SEC East-West, we're going to get rid of divisions next year. You like that?
What else can you do? I mean, I guess yes and no. I mean, you're going to see everybody playing everybody, I guess, eventually. But look, if you're going to compete in the SEC, you got to compete. And I'll be honest with you, when we play Austin Peay and we play, UConn and some of those teams, I mean, it's fun to go, but you really want to see those great games every week. Now, maybe the players don't, because they're having to play Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, you name it, week after week, and you get banged up. I mean, it's probably like Ben would know. It's almost like playing the NFL, right? I mean, you got those NFL players coming out of the SEC. So you know what? I think it's going to be continued on with the rivalries you're going to have. I think it's going to be interesting to see Texas and Oklahoma come in. But for me personally, I really kind of look forward to more of the SEC games, because it's going to be electric every Saturday. It's not going to be like nothing against Austin Peay, nothing against some of the other teams. UTSA we're playing, but it's kind of hard to get up for those games. Not get up. I'm going to be there every game, and I'm going to support them. But man, I would love to see LSU come here. I would love to see Florida's already coming in. I'd love to see Oklahoma come. We got Texas A&M coming in this year. I'd love to see Texas here. They'll be able to see who the real UT is. But I kind of like it. Maybe you get beat up and maybe you don't win a national championship because you got to play all these teams. But look, if you play all those teams and win, you're the GOAT at that point, right?
Yeah, and Matt, let me ask you this. Let's switch gears now. I hate the two divisions are going away in the SEC. It's going to be a free-for-all. It will be fun. You've got a son on the staff at Oregon. Sadly, the Pac-12, that god-awful, it's just awful. 11 of those 12 schools, and which is the one that doesn't have a quarterback starting right now that most people think is going to play in the NFL. What's Tyler say is the general feeling out there of like the league is challenging the SEC, and right now is on top of the college football world for the best conference top to bottom?
The still label is the best conference top to bottom. That's, I don't want to say a stretch because they're playing really well. But, at the end of the day, you mentioned one thing, Rob, the quarterback play of the Pac-12 schools, you got to admit, and that's a part of a little bit why I think the struggle is happening in a couple of schools for the SEC right now is they graduated some great quarterbacks. Bryce Young was #1 overall pick. Okay. But for me, last week I didn't watch Texas Alabama because, as you said, my son works at Oregon, so I watched the Oregon game, and the environment in Lubbock was really tough. And going into the third quarter, at the end of the third quarter, it was 27-18 Tech, and my wife was nervous. I said, "Look, we knew this game was going to be tough. Championship teams find a way on the road to win, and they did. I'm not saying Oregon's going to win the Pac-12, but right now, Bo Nix has had a great 2 first weeks. So there's a lot of excitement out there. I'll be at the Colorado game in 2 weeks. We really haven't talked about the resurgence of Colorado under Coach Sanders. What a tremendous job he's done. Now, I know Nebraska's not going to win the Big Ten this year, but the win over TCU, to follow it back up with a home win, they rushed the field. I mean, it's really interesting to see the stories in the Pac-12. Knowing the conference, this is the last year, guys. I mean, as you know, this is amazing to me that you got such strength right now in their football league, and it's going away forever.
Colorado's my second favorite team this year. I'm pulling for them. I love those. I love that story. That shutdown corner and Deion's son at quarterback. I had him on the money line in that first game. I didn't know anything. I just threw a few shekels on him.
I know nothing.
After one, woo! Man, they made me a convert. I was in the buffs for by halftime of that first game. And let me tell you something. They got talent, and all that talent wanted to come play for Deion. Yeah. So you cannot overlook that. I mean, he is a hell of a coach and a hell of a recruiter. And good for him. He deserves it. All the naysayers, you show them wrong, Deion. You keep rocking and rolling.
Well, Ben, I want to ask you this as a player. And I was mad at him, and then I started looking at him, and I'm going, you know what? Deion's refreshing. When someone asks him a question from the media gallery, you don't just go right into the question. He'll go, "Hey, how you doing?" He goes, "Appreciate you." He'll go, and he'll know something about you, like your foot's in a boot, and he'll go, "Man, I'm in the same boat." I know. I don't know Deion. I don't know if you do. I know you're a Gator. He's Seminole. He's from North Fort Myers, Florida, but he's doing some things that are different. And like someone told me the other day, if you think Nick Saban and Aflac would partner up with somebody that isn't good, you're out of your damn mind. Because I used to live and work in Columbus, Georgia, and right up there on Macon Road is the Aflac headquarters where the Amos family is, and they live there in that tower. You know what? If anything, say what you want. He's great for eyeballs on college football. There ain't been this much excitement in Boulder since they legalized marijuana. That's the truth now.
Deion understands bottom line. Deion understands what gets people in the seat. And he told his players, all you got to do is win. Travis Hunter is the best player in college football, top to bottom. What he is doing, people can't do that. You can have the best, you can have the most Gatorade, Powerade, whatever you want on the side. But he's been like that, since high school. But I think the thing about Deion Sanders is Deion Sanders saying, look, man, I've always been like this. Deion Sanders has always been charismatic. He's always been very outspoken, but he's always been very, very good at what he did on television, football, baseball. And I think look at what his son said. They asked Shadur Sanders, man, how do you deal with the pressure? He said, I'm a Sanders, man. I don't feel pressure. If it was anybody else saying that, but he get that from his dad. And the thing about it, let's call it what it really is. The only reason why we're talking about Colorado is because of what Deion Sanders is doing for him and his staff. Now, they saying his son might be the number 1 overall pick if he comes back, which I don't see why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, he ain't missing anything. Travis Hunter, he got another year left in school. Deion can do what nobody can do. And that's me. And I'm talking about real access. Nick Saban is the GOAT because of what he's done. Deion Sanders is that guy because of who he is and how he does it, meaning all the celebrities on. But think about this. He played for Atlanta. Remember they used to have Evander Holyfield and all these guys? So he did that as a player. So it's not like he's doing anything different. But Deion Sanders knows one thing. The people that keep you famous are the people that can't stand you. It ain't the people that love you. Because both of them in the sense. So all the doubters, they got to watch. They go get all the viewership. If an AD comes to a guy and says, I can't afford to pay you, and he still says, I want to come, the alumni came out and donated $28 million.
Yeah.
They done sold out the season. Deion Sanders understands this. I know how to make money, man. I need to get eyes and make money. I do that every day. But my son is pretty freaking good, man.
Yeah.
Travis Hunter is pretty good. Think about how many Colorado players. I mean, how many players gonna want to come to Colorado because they want to get coached under Deion. You go to Alabama because I want to get coached under Nick. You want to go to Georgia because I want to get coached under Kirby. Now, them boys, listen, them Florida boys better get a big coat because it's snow out there. They ain't never seen that white stuff. But outside,
but you know
of
what?
That,
he didn't bring in tomato cans. He brought in talent that wanted to be with him. And now he's got an administration that wants him as well. They're bought into it. I'm telling you, man, watch out for Deion at Colorado. I mean, this could be something really big that he could build over the next couple of years because he's charismatic and young players. He knows how to get people to the league, right? And that's the big thing right now, getting these recruits to come in. So I'm telling you, I think this is only the beginning of what's going to be one hell of a great storyline with Deion in Colorado. I really do.
Hey, here's a question from Roy Munson in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Is Travis Hunter a modern-day version of Gordy Lockbaum? Now, we all remember Gordy Lockbaum, don't we? Remember him, the multi-purpose player? No, the multi-purpose player back in 1985 at Holy Cross. That's right.
Holy Cross. That's right. I do remember that guy.
I was about to say holy, but I wasn't going to say cross after holy. I was going to say another word. But I'm just going to say, at the end of the day, Travis Hunter is a one of one. There is no look. I haven't seen all of college football, right? But most guys, the person I could compare him to, and I mean this humbly, is Charles Woodson. Yeah, Charles Woodson did when he was at Michigan because Travis Hunter can do it. He's a lockdown corner. But you can't stop him on offense. And I think the thing about it is Travis Hunter trusts Deion. Yeah. If Deion would have went to Holy Cross, Travis would have went because he trusts what he's doing. But the thing about Travis Hunter is this: you go back to 2 years. You go back to 2 years ago when they was in the Celebration Bowl. They needed to play. Who did Shador throw it to? Travis Hunter. It was 3rd and 15 against CU. They needed to play. Who did he throw it to? Travis Hunter. When you try to throw at him. I just think Travis Hunter to me is a guy that really, really understands football. People just look at his athleticism, and he got one more year eligibility. I think he's a sophomore. It's gonna be scary out there in Boulder, man.
That break against that TCU wide receiver on that pickoff, that was a Sunday play. Yeah. When he undercut that route, man, I'm telling you what, that's natural instinct. Look, let me tell you, when a kid goes both ways and plays 110 plays, it's one thing to do it in high school. Brother, he's doing it in Division I.
And it was
a whole different thing.
It was 160 degrees in Texas.
Oh, it was crazy.
It is. Hey, Matt Dean, here's the thing. You're talking about this Colorado situation. The interest in college football, folks, and I know the national narrative was gloom and doom. It's not that. But I'm looking around and I'm seeing a lot of good football being played everywhere. Has the SEC fallen asleep, Matt Dean, from a coach's perspective? You've coached for a long time and gotten a little bit gone back to the trough and eaten too much and maybe is bloated and fell asleep on the couch while the rest of the world is catching up. I mean, look, 3-6 versus Power 5 teams, that's not good.
Yeah, but you got some great coaches in the SEC, and you also have a situation where, Ben, no disrespect, but Florida took a step back, right? And they got to get back to where we know Florida needs to be. And I mentioned the league lost some quarterbacks that are very, very good and talented. I think Frank said it really well. Let's see how we are at midseason. It's really early to judge right now. There's an old saying, teams improve the most between first and second week. So do these quarterbacks. They get better every week. The one thing I am curious about, Mark, with Tennessee is the more zone coverage Milton sees, and I suspect, Ben, he's going to see a lot of it from Florida where you just can't go man and do those verts. Is it going to be tougher for him? Because let's be honest, the performance against Austin Peay was not electric.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing that concerns me. I mean, to be honest with you, I'm Tennessee tried and true. But, when you look at Milton, he was a starter a year or two ago and, he got hurt and came back. And that's when Hendon came in and did a great job. But Joe's problem back then is just overthrowing people. Now, it does concern us. I mean, you look at it and you think, okay, He's able to read the defense. His pocket presence wasn't great against Austin Peay. I don't know if he's just hurrying up or what's going on, but that is my biggest concern. Look, we have a fantasy football league with a lot of my buddies, and it's SEC. So I got players from South Carolina to Georgia to Florida on my all over the league here and on my team. And you're right about the quarterbacks in SEC. We were doing our draft. We're like, man, who are we going to draft here? Because of quarterbacks and so many people that had moved on. But that is my concern about Joe. I don't know if he's reading his progressions or if he's getting a little nervous. He's got the arm strength. He can throw the ball literally probably 100 yards in the air.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to make that pass. And some of his passes so far have been a little bit off. And maybe that's just getting into rhythm, but he's been a little bit behind the receivers a few times. So to answer your question, I don't know. That one-on-one last year was what got us, to where we were going. And, maybe some people are seeing some things that he's not going through the progressions or what's going on, but he's throwing a lot of those little swing passes, a lot. That's a safe pass. So definitely something to look for. And it's something that concerns me.
Yeah, I'm going to point the arrow when I'm going to people on this round table. We'll keep this going fast. Question from Brother Felix in Gretna, Louisiana. I had a brother Felix that taught me at CBHS, used to work in the library, told us a story one time about him wrestling a bear. I mean, seriously, I think Brother Felix was out of his mind. But anyway, I digress. Brother Felix in Gretna, Louisiana. Frank, why did LSU move Harold Perkins to middle linebacker? He looked a lot better out on the edge Saturday versus Grambling. In a follow-up, and people are texting me these questions, and then some of them are coming in on YouTube, and I'm trying to get them in. He looked a lot better versus Grambling. Are they going to keep him there?
But by the way, Brother Felix, I've been to Gretna a few times across the river from New Orleans. In fact, that's where we used to jump the ferry to go buy our fireworks twice a year. So I know Gretna very well, man. Got them bootleg fireworks. You get back on the ferry and look over your shoulder to make sure the police wasn't looking at you. No, hey, look, Brother Felix, you're exactly right. You know what the problem is? Sometimes everybody wants to be the smartest cat in the room, and Matt House and Brian Kelly overthunk that. I'm telling you right now. When you've got an absolute beast on the outside, you leave him on the outside. When I first read over the summer that they were going to move Harold Perkins Jr., who is a phenomenal athletic talent, just an aggressive player. Why? In fact, my seats were 2 rows up behind the LSU bench, and there was 2 things that I saw. I saw our offensive line be extremely tired and look like they were not in game shape. And they were like leaning on the defense for Florida State and not moving them off the line. I knew we were in trouble when we had to throw 5 times on the 1-yard line in that first drive. I was like, wait, coaches know something we don't know. There's some problems. But the second thing I saw when the defense would come off, Harold Perkins Jr., you could just see he was literally having to compute almost everything. And I was like, why are you making this kid have to do reads on the middle, on the inside, middle linebacker? I mean, Ben will tell you, middle linebacker, man, it's 90% cerebral. You're directing people here and there. Look, not that he can't do it, but why take away his strength? Put him back out on the outside, which they did on Saturday night, and he was a different animal, right? So I don't think I think you've seen the last of the middle linebacker Harold Perkins Jr. experiment. It's going to go the way the dodo bird is. It ranks up there right there with New Coke. It's probably not a really good idea. So you're going to see him in the SEC play do exactly what he did last year, and that is disrupt the backfield of every game that he played in from that outside edge rusher. And they move him around. Don't have him on one side or the other. But for goodness sakes, don't put 4 of our defensive linemen between him and that backfield and that quarterback. Let him go. Let him go do what he is absolutely exceptional at.
Yeah, I agree with you. Here's a question from Dwayne Allman in Ulam, Arkansas. It's on Highway 79. I've been through there before. Talk about Arkansas versus BYU, Ben. BYU, as an aside, has like 61 new players from high school in the portal. And again, they're usually 23, 24 years old, a couple of years mountain biking around the world, getting doors slammed in your face. That's going to be a tough game for Arkansas. Ben, your thoughts on that? And then I want to go back to Coach Matt. But Ben, your thoughts? Razorbacks versus the Cougars.
You're going to watch KJ Jefferson take another step. I think when you think about a team like BYU, they're always going to be well coached, but very, very mature football players when you talk about the things they have to do that no other team has to. But we keep talking about quarterback play, and I know everybody wants to talk about what's going on, with Daniels and LSU or what's going on, with Beck down there at Georgia. KJ Jefferson, one of the best quarterbacks in the country, man, and he's a dual threat. I don't like the poor man's thing, but if there's a poor man's Joe Milton, and I mean this respectfully, it's KJ Jefferson. This kid can get it done. I think the thing about him is, they put a lot on his shoulders, though. They put a lot on him to be able to make plays at the line, call audibles and different things. But we get to talk about that. We get to talk about the SEC West and quarterback playing the SEC West. KJ Jefferson, he's one of my top players over there, man. I'm looking forward to – once again, we got to deal with him later on in the year in Florida, and we're going to have on black jerseys. I hope we ain't burying ourselves. That's going to be another conversation for another day. But I watch KJ Jefferson, and I watch him just get better week in and week out. I watch him take another step. It's not going to be an easy dub, or it's not going to be an easy out going up against them boys from BYU, but I see KJ Jefferson taking another step.
Here's another one, and you talk about, Matt, your thoughts on that one. KJ Jefferson and Arkansas's offense so far, they struggled, the other day against Kent State, but they're undefeated. But I think that the story of Arkansas is Travis Williams and the Arkansas defense is getting after their opponent's ass with just a lot of fire, and they've got some depth on the front seven, especially the defensive line.
I'm with Ben 100%, Rob, and I've talked about KJ with Ben not on the show before in high regard. And the one thing I caution you, when you play a team like Kent State from the MAC, first of all, you're going to get their absolute best. But if I got LSU in the schedule in 2 weeks, why am I showing everything on offense right now? I'm not. I'm just trying to get the win, get other people involved, build up confidence. So then when I have a big game like Frank, one of the biggest games I see coming up is on the 23rd, Arkansas going to LSU.
Yeah.
Because I think the winner of that game has a clear path to the West if Alabama has taken a little bit of a step back. And
I agree.
And they may not have. Because Alabama's going to right the ship. But I'm just telling you, the West is probably a little bit more open than we ever thought it would be 2 or 3 years ago. Is that a fair statement?
I absolutely think that's a fair statement. And don't forget, KJ was not playing last year when LSU went to Arkansas and won that game. We barely won that game, right?
Yeah.
So I think, Ben, I agree with you. I think he's a phenomenal talent. He's a big boy, and I'm telling you, he can run, he can move, he's elusive. And I think the aforementioned Harold Perkins Jr. is who we're going to need to have to contain him. And don't be shocked if you watch him spy him the entire game. Yeah. That would not shock me at all. Fortunately, it's going to be a night game at LSU. They just released it. It's going to be a night game, which will help. But look, Arkansas LSU is always a bloodbath. It is a lineman's game, LSU and Arkansas. And you're right, man. I think the winner comes out of that, with absolute. Well, let's put it this way: if you come out as a winner, it doesn't mean you win in the West. But if you come out losing that ball game, you got a long road, brother.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
Frank, quick question for you before we go back up to Mark. Bill Faulkner in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Georgia Tech versus Ole Miss Saturday in Oxford. It's going to be better than advertised. Georgia Tech is 6-4 since the coaching change. They've got wealthy alumni. You live over there in the metro Atlanta area, but they ain't going to write checks, and they're not going to row out to the Titanic for happy hour. But if they see hope, they've got money. They've got more gazillionaires than about any college in America. What do you think about this game? Because Tulane tested Ole Miss, even without Mike Pratt, their starting QB. You were at that game, by the way.
Yeah, I pulled the Louisiana Daily Double. I watched Ole Miss play Tulane in New Orleans, then got in my car and went up and saw LSU and Grambling State. So I watched both ball games on Saturday. And, yes, Tulane, if Pratt plays in that ball game, Tulane beats Ole Miss. In fact, almost could have with the backup. I like Georgia Tech getting the points. But the problem with Georgia Tech is, yes, they've got money. But the one thing about Georgia Tech is they just don't have that campus feel. That stadium at Bobby Dodd is, I mean, it's embarrassing for a Division I team with that much money. I mean, I went to a game there, I guess it was a year or two ago.
And tradition,
I mean,
Frank. They got a lot of tradition.
You can't swing a dead cat without hitting a wall when you stand in line trying to eat. I mean, the whole thoroughfare is like 10 feet wide. They really need to get some more involvement from their alumni. It's one of the only programs that I know that's taken seats out of a stadium in the last 10 to 15 years. So to your point, Rob, yes, they've got money, and yes, will it increase the interest? But Georgia Tech's always been a bedroom, fan base. They far flung, but they don't really come back to campus and show that type of support. So I don't even know if winning's going to help that, Rob. I really don't. But I do like Brent Key. He gets his players to play hard for him. They have, they're above 500 since he took over. But I think Ole Miss has much better talent. I like Georgia Tech to cover, but I think Ole Miss is going to be too much for them. They'll win the ball game.
Yeah, and let me do this real quick. Let's take a quick break. I want to come back, Mark, and you talk about that Georgia Tech. You're right about that stadium. It's like being on board a submarine. I mean, there's no room. Grant Field, Bobby Dodd Stadium, a lot of tradition there. But again, I think when the people say there's a football game, that they've got so many international students, they think a soccer game's about to break out. Okay, we'll take this quick commercial break, and then we are going to be right back with more on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne back here with you. Ben had to go. He's got bowling practice, and somebody's in the witness protection program right now. I just see a white circle for the head with a voice kind of like, I was not. I love the witness protection program. But, it's interesting, and I say this all the time about Georgia Tech. They have so much in terms of money and all going for them. But, again, if your fan base – apathy is what will kill your fan base quicker than a lack of anything else. You can have money, but wealthy people that are successful, especially those that are self-made, are very conscious of every dollar that they spend. Now, you sometimes get people that are third or fourth generation coupon clippers, born on third base and thought they hit a triple. I mean, they'll spend money frivolously, but 95% of the wealth in this country is first generation wealth. And I know that from 32 plus years as a financial advisor, most of my clients, and they've also been through, some of them have been broke once or twice, maybe had a partner steal all their money and take off down to the Amazon River basin and never be seen again, eaten by piranhas or something, or those pink dolphins that Audrey saw. Audrey, were y'all drinking when you saw the pink dolphins down there in the Amazon? But Matt Dean, Ben Troupe had to go, but he did say, I'd like Matt's phone number because I'd like to talk to him about some stuff. So I gave him your contact info because he wants to talk to you. He really, really likes you. And we love Ben and appreciate him being on and all of y'all for being on with us this morning, because this is what's so fun is you get all this synergy going. Mark Hamm, you're looking at college football, where we are right now, man. I've had so dang many questions, and like I said, they're coming in off the comment line, and a lot of them are texting. I try to take the ones where people are texting me, and I'm trying to type them in and multi. I hate that term. I don't like the term metroplex, and I don't like the term multitasking. So I'm doing a lot of things at one time. I'm busier than a one-legged man in a kick fight, you know. But Mark, this has been cool stuff. Frank's there in Atlanta, LSU. Matt's an Iowa Hawkeye from Davenport, Iowa. Got a son on the staff at Oregon. Coaches at Rhodes College in Memphis. Women's basketball had 16 years. Coached with the men with Herb Hildegren for a long time. And AD, now associate AD, but a magnet for good things. Mark, I want your thoughts on the state of college football up through the first few games, because I think we are having a great revival that Billy Graham would be proud to preach at.
Well, I would say that I would agree with you. I mean, I've been watching some of the other games, but obviously I'm really kind of dialed into the SEC, especially with my SEC fantasy football team. So, I'm pulling for guys from LSU and Florida, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? But I got to win, because it's more important to beat all my buddies in fantasy football than it is to not, cheer from somebody from Georgia. So, look, it's the best time of the year. I mean, I'm here in Knoxville, got a little nip in the air. It's 62 degrees, and the leaves are starting to kind of get a little crispy, and they're going to start falling before long. So, it's fantastic. I think it brings so many people together, and everyone's so excited about it. Even when we were terrible, it was great times up here. But now that, Tennessee's had a little bit of success, it's crazy. It's crazy. So from my perspective, from the state of football, from the state of Rocky Top tailgate, I can tell you right now, there were so many people in my tent last week, we couldn't even walk. And we were like, we're going to have to do something different here. Like, I know we know a lot of people, but there had to be 300 people there. And it's like, football's back. I mean, it's always back. So I think the state of football is fantastic. I talked to a guy last night who said he doesn't really like college football, but he grew up in New York. And I'm like, well, who'd you pull for up there? I mean, they just didn't have it. They have NFL teams. Anybody that's down here, they kind of get into it. I was at the game in Nashville a couple of weeks ago. My daughter, who's at Georgia, of all places, she FaceTimed me, and she's walking from a fraternity house with all her sorority sisters, and they're all Mr. Mark and waving, and they're headed over to another, tailgate, and then they're going to go watch Georgia play. And it was just, I was so proud as a dad to watch it and say, man, she's got it in her blood now. It's in her blood. I mean, she had it in her blood. And then my son, all of his fraternity brothers came by on Saturday, and so he had about 20 Sigma Chi's up there drinking water that I served, water shots, because it was a little warm, but a lot of water shots. It was clear liquid, but it's just a blast. It's just a blast, and I'll tell you, it's my favorite time of the year. And I think the state of college football is better than it's ever been. And you know what? And when other people start winning, like Colorado, I mean, my daughter looked at Colorado. We flew out there and looked at Colorado, went in the stadium, and I was like, man, this used to be something. It was almost like it was, bolted up. But with Deion out there and what's going on, and with Oregon and with the Pac-12 and everything, it's fantastic. I mean, it's fantastic.
Rob, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I haven't talked to you since Orlando, right? And so we brought Bengal One to Orlando, had a big tailgate party, had all of our LSU buddies. But what was really cool is at Camping World, where you go in the RVs, it's just like a big field. Well, I was pointed one way, and a Florida State guy, about my age, he has a son at Florida, and a daughter at Florida State. My daughter's at LSU. And so the way we pulled in our RVs, we were kind of, one was facing one way and one was facing the other. So the awnings opened up into a common area. So basically we had this cool shaded area, probably not more than, 15 yards apart. But I will tell you, between his tailgate and my tailgate, we had to have 250 people underneath overhangs at any given time. And, his guests were eating my food. My guests were eating his food. And it's funny, actually made jambalaya and I made pastelaya. I was like, I was pretty impressed. I went over that morning with my Louisiana lost bread and gave him some. He goes, man, that's fantastic.
Oh,
so
God.
This common feel together,
Right.
the celebration, and even after the game, we came back with our tail between our legs, hung out for about an hour and a half. We broke down the RV site at the same time. You're tired after getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and starting cooking, right? But you feeling of it's back, we're enjoying it. And there's just this common feel that it's a celebration. It's American celebration is my thing, no matter which teams you pull for. And here's the scary part. After this weekend, I don't even want to say it. We're already 1/4 of the way through the season.
I know. I don't want to hear that yet.
I know. Hey, enjoy the moments, man. You're right. But, I'm not sure which is more fun, the build up to the season or the season. Matt Dean, question for you from Irene Ryan. Wasn't that Granny from the Beverly Hillbillies? Irene Ryan.
Right.
By the way, Audrey sent me a picture the other day of Irene Ryan back when she was a young lady. She was beautiful. I mean, she didn't, look like the old woman with alligator skin that she was, but Granny was a tough woman. And Butcher Holler, Kentucky has a question from Matt Dean. Give us your thoughts on the new and bigger Big Ten. And by the way, if speaking of food, went to Rouse's grocery store in Orange Beach. I guess we went Sunday. No, we went Monday on the way out of town. My parents wanted a bunch of jumbo lump crab meat, which they were sold out of. And so we got, I'm looking on here. Mark is showing us some pictures.
I'm trying to show something. I think it's too bright. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Getting a reflection. Is that Granny?
Yeah. Well, it was a gator here that we cooked last year that Ben probably didn't want to see.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's at my tailgate. But I was wanting to show the gator that's dead that we smoked.
Alligator tail meat is really good. So we went to Rouse's grocery store Monday, and we got shrimp and crab meat, shrimp and crab bisque for my parents, shrimp and grits, and we got a ton of shrimp from Rouse's. Also got my parents a quart of gumbo from Doc's Seafood there on Canal in Orange Beach, which they ate in one day. One day they ate a quart. I said, Mom, I think you spilled it when you were mixing your vodka. But and then I got what was really good was the stuffed chicken with the crawfish etouffee, which we heated up last night. But Matt Dean, let's talk about the Big Ten. You got, you're an Iowa Hawkeye, and the Big Ten, we're not hearing much about them right now, but they've got some of the highest ranked teams in all of college football.
They have 3 really outstanding teams, in my opinion: Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State. We don't talk about Penn State a lot, guys, but I think Penn State could, believe it or not, be a playoff representative this year. They are strong across the board.
Yeah.
Obviously, my bias with Iowa. Iowa still has a very solid defense. I don't see Iowa challenging overall, but I think Iowa could win the West. The problem with Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, they're all in the East. So now, to answer Irene's question, you add USC, UCLA, Oregon. Washington is a top 5 football team right now. They got Michael Penix Jr. playing extremely well. He played great last year. Wow, I just think it's going to be a tremendous football league. And with Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC, it just makes those 2 conferences, 1 and 2. And obviously, I'm still going to lean towards the Big Ten in many things, but still, I think SEC overall is a better football conference than the Big Ten. It's deeper. I think if you go past those three or four teams like Wisconsin lost at Washington State, guys. Another Pac-12 team we never talk about. Their quarterback, Cam Ward, will play in the National Football League. There's no doubt about that. And then honestly, you look at Michigan right now with Harbaugh's situation. They have a great team, a great quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. So I think the Big Ten is going to be a power football conference from here on out.
Yeah, and I do. And Frank, we really hadn't even gotten into another game that's going to be a big one, as they say down in the South, Saturday. Can we get a spelling on that? Saturday. On Saturday, LSU goes to Starkville. Yeah. And somebody a minute ago made a good point. KJ Jefferson runs the ball a lot, and I think they wanted him to run it last week. But last year, he wasn't ready to go on the road when Arkansas lost in Starkville. At home for that 13-10 loss against LSU the week after Alabama and LSU. LSU won in overtime. And then I don't think he was good to go in the Liberty game. They lost all 3 of those games. But let's talk about this LSU matchup against Zach Arnett. I love it. I love this guy's enthusiasm. He's a damn I'm a big fan of his because you know what? He lets it all out.
He's a high quality player. He really is. And he's a good kid from what I understand. He's a real good kid. Very, very, very well mannered young man. I think LSU is going to actually come out and show our talent this weekend. LSU historically handles Mississippi State very well. I want to say we're like 27-4 over the last 31. Even in Stark Patch, we go in and we can normally handle them. The tough run was when Dak was there one year, beat us in Tiger Stadium, and of course, our first game after the national championship, they came in. Coach O's eyes were already off the prize. I want to say Mississippi State had 1,500 yards of total offense that game. But most of the time we can go in there and handle Mississippi State. And I do expect that. I think you're going to see our defense clamp down on them. I think we played really well. And again, I know it was Grambling last week. We had our first 10 possessions were touchdowns. So I think we might have been reading the clippings a little bit too much for that Florida State game. I think we're a little full of ourselves. I don't think we were in. From what I heard, Coach Kelly had them running stadium quite a week leading up. So I think we're going to handle Mississippi State. You never look ahead in the SEC, but I think at the end of the day, we'll prevail on the road. And then we can turn our attention back to home for Arkansas coming in.
Yeah, and Mark, just in along the lines of what Matt and Frank just said, and you're right. Statistically, historically, LSU takes care of business against Mississippi State. To this point, Mark, who is the surprise team in the SEC that you thought wouldn't be very good but is playing very well? Is there one? There may not be one.
That's a good question. The only thing I would say is, with Mississippi State, and we with the Leach and, unfortunately passing and the things that went on there, I guess they've won both their games, right, so far.
Yeah.
But I would say that, what's interesting about them, and the reason I look at them is because their running back, Jacavius Mark, is one of my running backs on the SEC football team. So I've been keeping up with him.
Tough runner.
That dude is getting it done. I mean, he's leading. I think he might be leading the SEC right now in rushing. And I know they changed a little bit. They wanted a little more balance. They're still throwing the ball. I don't think Will Rogers is throwing as much as he did last year. But their running game, and I don't know who they've really played a lot of people, but I think their running game is pretty good. So I think they're a little more balanced than they were. The other person is kind of laugh. I don't think they won a lot, but Vandy seems to be throwing the ball a lot. I mean, if you look into the stats, just between their quarterback and some of their receivers are throwing the ball, they're never going to, win or be, anything in the SEC. But, I just kind of, I don't know. I like to see people throw the ball and looking at it right now. I think it's just a little bit early because, everyone's just been playing people that, aren't, I wouldn't say good, but they're just not SEC opponents at this point.
Yeah. And again, that stat, SEC 3-6 versus Power 5 teams, not good at all. But coaches will tell you it's okay for players to get better. Coach Matt Dean, this is what you excel in as a coach. Sometimes you go out there in the first audition, just not very good. But isn't that why coaches love to coach? If everything was there and ready and nobody needed any coaching, coaches wouldn't have jobs, would they? And fans wouldn't have anything to raise hell about.
No, and secretly, I'm not saying Brian Kelly wanted to lose to Florida State, but that may have been the best thing to happen to LSU. It wouldn't shock me if they ran the table, guys. I mean,
I think happened last year.
It would not shock me a bit. And really, if I'm wrong, Frank, you correct me, but they let it happen. Really, they had opportunities that slipped. They could have been up a lot more, right? And I'm going to give Florida State some credit. They had that 6'4" transfer receiver from Michigan State out there. That dude looked like Calvin Johnson out there.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just big and strong and catching balls and really tough to cover. And honestly, I do think, I'm really curious about Ole Miss, because I think you answer your question, to win at Tulane. I know Pratt didn't play, but that's still a really, really big win for the Rebs early on. I mean, that's a game a few years ago they probably wouldn't have won.
Right. That crowd was amped up. It was a fun game. They were amped up.
Yeah. But I'm really curious when Georgia plays Tennessee down the road, because we'll see, the new quarterback. I know they got all these dudes everywhere in the field, but I think Tennessee's in a really good opportunity mode this year. I think Tennessee could definitely challenge hard to win the East this year.
Well, I think it's the only shot to derail Florida.
Yep, that's the only shot. That's right.
No one else is going to do it. I think the big disappointment so far has been South Carolina.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, well, maybe South Carolina, Rattler, Beamer ball. They ended the season like a house on fire. So I think that was a big disappointment how they played against North Carolina.
Yeah, correct.
I'm going to make two predictions, Rob. Run tape. I might eat crow, but my two predictions right now, week 3, LSU plays Florida State again in the playoffs. That's coming. And they come up with the $87 million buyout in College Station. Jimbo
Something
doesn't
like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't last the year right now.
Yeah.
He will never see LSU finale this year.
Wow.
Yeah, interesting point from David Baker, Dyersburg, Tennessee, lives in Memphis now, Dyer County. Here, a shout out to the 412, Highway 412, and J. Paul. Will Rogers, Mississippi State quarterback out of Rankin, Mississippi, 7th in all-time passing yards in the Southeastern Conference, and has thrown 46 pass attempts over 2 games. Mississippi State, there's movement in the aisles here. Scott Field, Starkville, Mississippi. A shout out to the late Jack Crystal, is tied at 162nd in team passing, but still 2-0. And we had this discussion with Jake Wimberly of ESPN, The Afternoon Drive in Jackson. I was on his show yesterday. And I think it was Jake that talked about it. He may struggle to get 3,000 yards passing this year versus 4,000. And you knew that Zach Arnett would have to change the offense. But wow, guys, they're 2-0. You think this could be the coming out party? I mean, you are what you are. Frank, Mark, Matt, anybody want to answer that one?
Like I said, I love Rogers. I think he's a great kid. You saw that. I don't know if you saw the vignette. I guess it was either last year or the year before when he helped the older lady to her, out of the stadium one night. You can tell it was in Tuscaloosa. He got the hell beat out of him, and he still took time to help this elderly lady. One of the attendants there. So I think he's just a wonderful kid. I think he's great talent. But I'll tell you what's going to happen. I think in this game, you're going to have 400 yards of combined rushing by both of the teams because Mississippi State's running the ball well, and we had our 2 running backs. This kid Diggs that we got from Notre Dame is a beast, and our true freshman. I think you're going to see running the ball, and that's what LSU did not do well against Florida State was stop the run. So I think this is going to be a rushing game. I think if you touch anything on the LSU Mississippi State game, because I think the number's a little rich, 9. I think you go under in this game because I see it being one of those 23-16, 23-13 sort of games that LSU and Mississippi State sometimes do, especially in Starkville. Points come easy in Tiger Stadium. They don't come easy with them damn cowbells ringing and ringing in years.
Yeah. Look, we've run out of time, guys, but Mason Smith, Harold Perkins. Is Harold Perkins from New Orleans, Frank?
No, it's Texas.
That's Houston. Yeah. Okay. They had him listed as New Orleans, and I'm like, no, he's a Texas kid. Well, that's that pipeline, because all of our guys in the, Lake Charles and DeRidder, they consider Houston to be their city. They're Astros fans, but they think Houston on over 10 is LSU country. That's just the way it is. Hey, Matt Dean, thank you so much for taking your time. Frank Duffy, Mark Hamm, Gary Harris. Ben Troupe. I'm not leaving anybody off here. Great stuff. I know John Hartwell couldn't be on this morning. He got a text about 8:50. At about 7:52 from the president of ULM just for a meeting, just, to go over some stuff. And he said, I got to go to that. So he'll be on with us Saturday. But hey, great stuff as always. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Go out. You never know what kind words and deeds can do to change people's lives. Go bless others. We're blessed beyond belief. And we have the best audience, the best listeners, the best sponsors. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Got a great show in store for you tomorrow. I'll tell you right now, we've got Jake Wimberly from The Drive down in Jackson, Mississippi on with us in the morning. Vince Ferrara from the Sports Animal in Knoxville. Bo Carter and Ken Capps, the Texas duo, might have another surprise or two. Catch us 6 days a week, man. But let me say this. We'll be out of here. We'll be back in the morning. Everybody have a great day. Thanks so much for listening. And I think we all learned a lot more than we knew before we started. See ya.